Welcome back to day 103 of our chess journey to 1500 ELO on chess.com. So who's ready to win back some ELO and get closer to our goal? I am. I'm hoping you guys are as well. Let's jump on ahead and find an opponent. We are black today, playing against a Gmail account from Egypt. Amralghanam01gmail.com. Do we get a Sicilian? I mean a Najdorf rather. Seems like we might. I think this is a move as well, but it's not normal. No, we don't get a Najdorf. Our opponent mixes things up. And is probably more familiar with the theory here than we are. Oops. This might be a move. But I still haven't had time to look into e5 in the Sicilian. I don't quite know how to play with the move, or how to play it correctly at least. This is an idea, looking to get this, and it kind of kills off the idea of having this bishop in the diagonal here because it just bites on dirt. Looking down at those pawns here. Still, this might be a move, but I'd like to play this first to get development going. We could get castled quickly. Speaking of castling, our opponent rushes. Still, this is an option perhaps. Honestly, I might want to play this immediately. I don't quite want to allow this, is my reasoning. So let's go here first, and then we'll go here. This is a good move in a Sicilian regardless as black, or well, typically speaking at least. There is no move here, and no move here. And it kind of seeks to develop this bishop here along this diagonal if we should want to do so. Could go for a double fianchetto setup. Should probably be okay. This is a maneuver I'm unfamiliar with. Don't quite know what the idea here is. I guess just moving pieces. No, honestly, what is this knight accomplished here? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. Let's not try to justify every move of our opponents, and let's try to play our own moves and play solidly here. If this bishop comes out, we do have time to castle before having to think about trading bishops here. c4. Okay. I guess our opponent does not want to allow b5. This is a peculiar kind of Sicilian. I haven't seen anyone play like this before. Can we just go here, 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 here? Not quite, because it's a check, so we can't take this pawn. Although otherwise I might have considered it. So how about controlling this square? Could play like this, but I don't think we have to rush, to be honest. Might just castle first and then take it from there. Trying to preserve some time to play the difficult Sicilian mid-game. The knight comes out. Once again, disallowing b5, but surely we can just play b6 as well, right? Our opponent here is trying to prevent us from playing d5, I guess. But this pawn is not quite a weakness now, at least. With our pawn here in e7, but it does make sense. It looks like a decent setup here. doing all they can to prevent our main idea in the Sicilian. Or main pawn push at least. So let's develop a bit more defensively. Now this pawn can't easily push, and we still get our bishop out. I don't think we are under a lot of pressure. There is a phrase called famous last words. No, honestly, this is not that bad, I think. We trade and maybe play this, and I think we're in a decent spot. Could obviously target the knight as well, with something like this perhaps. This is a move, this is a move. Queens might get traded, but it's not something we have to worry about just yet, I think. The knight doesn't scare me. Can't go here, we control this quite well. So let's just develop. Now I'm liking our bishops here. It's kind of difficult to blunt them. This knight, would like to move it at some point. And we might open up an attack against the knight. If something moves here, we might want to consider e6. So the pawn does not hang in any lines. Although it doesn't seem like an urgent thing right now. This is the threat. Can we come up here? Still defending the pawn and hitting the knight. This might be an idea. Alternatively, developing the knight here. And we might see this. But then we can't quite get pinned, I guess, not easily. I'm not thrilled by that position, but it's not the end of the world either. This isn't a move. So it's either this or this, I think. I think prioritizing development might be preferential here. Preferential might be, we might prefer developing the last minor piece, is what I'd like to say. And if this is taken, we have to go here because otherwise we lose a pawn. Or do we? No, we don't. It might be a trap, I think. This, and we have this, I think, threatening checkmate and the bishop. Yep, that seems to work. So we don't have to get this knight onto d7. Oh, wait a second. Yeah, it works. It's just we do have to find an alternative path for this knight if we don't do that, but we'll see. We might have caught our opponent in a trap here or not, depending on what they play. Now we do open up d8 for a rook if we should want to, which I think looks good. our opponent plays the move. I don't see a way of preventing this. If this is played, we have this. This, I think, is the only way of trying, because it defends this and cuts off this, but our knight here protects, or rather, it plays against our opponent's idea. I don't typically play with the tricks in my chess, but I did see a trick now. Why not go for it? It did not seem to be a bad move. I don't like to going for tricks when I know there is an obviously better move though. And here I thought the moves were quite similar, so why not include some complications and maybe win a piece. There is no threat here for this bishop. This is played, we'll take. And we should just be up a piece, I'm pretty sure. This hangs as well, which might be annoying in some lines. This can't be pushed. I'm getting quite optimistic here, although this pawn on d5 might be annoying. But we should have some pressure against it. It's just we can't easily play e6 without allowing for this or forcing our pawns apart. So the bishop can move first of all, but it doesn't. Oh, this is creative. Does this work? I didn't consider this as an option at all. We can't take here, but if we do take here, we lose this piece. But no, we are still up a piece. And our opponent allows us to trade down more material. This is still hanging. If this is played, we take. Or no, we don't. If this is played, we pin the bishop and then maybe play like this, because the queen is behind here and this gets difficult to play. I don't quite know which rook to go up with here, but I think this maybe. And this, and yeah, this looks good. Now we should be able to trade on our own terms, which should be great. Our opponent here seems to keep on finding good moves. But this and this is first, and we could just use this pawn as a target. This is an option. Don't quite want to go here because of this pin. Maybe this, looking to play this, and preventing the pawn from moving. Seems to be a good plan. I don't think our opponent can keep the pawn without their position falling apart. It's just this pawn is a bit weak now, but I think this should be working. If needs be, we can get our queen back here, holding this, hitting this, and hitting this, which should be quite decent. So we're up a piece for 2 pawns. This is played, but now we just have this, I think. Which should be quite good. We add an attacker and we add a defender. What more can you ask for in one single move? Now I don't think this pawn can be defended. Because let's say this is played, we go here and the other rook can join in. This was the alternative I looked at, but here, well, where does our opponent proceed from here? This pawn can't be taken now. And the pawn is still hanging. Our opponent's pawn, that is. I don't think this works at all. Seems a bit desperate. And if it's played, we have this, which should work in our favor. At least I'm pretty sure it should. This pawn is defended. We get g4, or g3 rather, but surely this doesn't quite work. First of all, we can just start off by taking the pawn. A free pawn is a free pawn after all. Alternatively, we could wait and just go here. The pawn will fall regardless. Why not let it fall on our terms without worrying about something like this was what I was looking at. I don't want an imbalance necessarily. We could trade the queen for the 2 rooks and it should favor us, but we would have to prove it. And I don't think we want to have to prove it. We know we are winning, so let's not create imbalances that could be bad for us. This should be sufficient. b2 is still hanging, d5 is hanging. Well, this is not quite hanging because this gets annoying. And, oh well, actually this kind of works. This is played. Honestly here, I think we can come up here now. And if a rook moves to d1, we have got d6 covered. Now we are staring down at this pawn. If this is played, I was looking at this move. But we get taken, and this I think should be good for us. Now we get all the activity we should need. We hit a2. We hit this. This pawn can't be defended because of our bishop. So it's pushed. Now I think we'd like to come here. So our opponent does not get the c file. And we have the d file. We want to trade rooks if we are allowed to. So this file is not open because of our bishop. This file is controlled by this rook, and the c file is controlled by our other rook. Let's come up here. If this is played, we take. What is this rook going to do? Honestly, I don't quite know. Here we should be crushing. We are simply up a bishop. We might have moves like this as well. Just going for the throat immediately. Seems like our opponent might allow it. Well, this pawn gets defended at least. This kind of forces this move. And I think it gives us time to push our pawns. We have 9 minutes, so it's not as though we have any time troubles here. So we do have time to think and make up a strategy. First of all, this kind of a blockade should work in our favor. So I was looking at this move, but it hangs this pawn in one move, so maybe this first. This, and honestly I don't quite see a concrete win here. Or do I? If this is played, this looks more annoying because of discoveries. So here the king might have to move. But still I don't want to give up our pawn. Let's start off with this move. We might see this, trying to get into our position. But now the king moves. Now is this better? I think it is. Forces the rook onto this square, which is not ideal. Okay, let's go for this. Should be okay. Now the rook is stuck playing defensively. I think we can move this first prior to the pawn, so there is no b4. This file here is not open regardless. This is no threat. We can meet h4 with h5, and this would be good for us. If this is played, we should be good. Our opponent wants to move the rook, it seems. Makes sense, but will we allow it? I guess we don't have much of a choice, but we can still get this. And the bishop does a whole lot of work. This is the move I was looking at. But here we just take this, and there should be no problems. So f2 can never really be moved. And I think now we can start looking at moving our king at some point. Our opponent repins themselves. Okay. Maybe this. Yeah, this looks good. Now we can move our king, and we can play e5 as well. This pawn can't push because of our clamp. And still this pawn can never move, because both the rook and the king has to stay defending it at all times. Unless our opponent wants this to happen. Okay, so a pawn is indeed sacrificed for activity. The move I was looking at here was this. Looking to get down here and just control the dark squares. Can't go here, which would have been a good alternative. This would have been nice as well, but we can't do it. I don't quite like this. Although, actually, this might be a good move. It does the same as this, but it seems like it controls some other squares as well, and our bishop can't easily get hit there. Or can it? I think we'll go down here. Controlling some squares and just having a great time. This pawn is a liability. Can't be pushed. And the rook has to stay defending it. Now, is this a mistake? Let's have a look at this. If this is played, I was looking at this and maybe this, but first of all, I think I'd like to get the king up. Maybe here to control h6 as well. Yes. Because if the king gets stuck here, h6 might allow us to have a checkmate. This was slightly more active, but I'm hoping this pays off, although it might not. We'll have to see. If we get our king here though, that should be fantastic. I don't see our opponent having any counterplay then. The dark squares are covered, our king can't get checked. The king on f6, and we should be in a fantastic spot. It's disallowed. However, rook here. I know there is this. So we might have to go here first. Forcing the king back and then go here. Yeah, that's probably better. So let's do it. Now this looks like a decent configuration. Let's see if this is played. Well, then we take the pawn. Our bishop keeps this defended. Well, we get the win today. I think this was a nice game. Thanks for the game. Well played to our opponent. I'll quickly, as I do at times, log on to my other account to analyze the game so we can get a game review with a better analysis. So now the game review is loading here. Give me 1 second. I let it finish loading. There we go. Oh, this was a nice accuracy. I'll show you in a second. An average accuracy of 93. That's not often you see. 0 inaccuracies, 0 mistakes, 0 misses, and 0 blunders. Our opponent only had 1 blunder. This was a really nice game. And in a Sicilian for once, we had a great game rating and we did not spend a lot of time either. Honestly, it was more of a non-confrontational Sicilian, so it makes sense. I did not feel like we were under pressure. It didn't feel as tactical as some Sicilian positions do. Still, it feels nice to have this kind of great feedback rather from the review. Let's have a look at the game though. This was all solid. Apparently here we should have went here and allowed this transformation, although the difference is quite minimal. This was okay as well, I think. This was okay. All good moves. Didn't see this idea though. What in the world does this accomplish? Oh, it opens up the knight or bishop rather. This knight has to move, and okay, we force doubled pawns. It makes sense though, but at the same time I would be scared for our king, because this bishop and the queen might come in and the dark squares are weak. Now this was the one mistake our opponent made. Our trap worked, but honestly our opponent played incredibly well following their mistake. Some really good moves here. So we had to think. A lot of moves were blessed by the engine today. We got our endgame going, and honestly, this was fantastically beautiful. This configuration here forced our opponent to either give up the pawn or indefinitely rather, keep the knight, rather the rook and the king rather, defending this one pawn without any other moves or prospects. This was good. This was good. Apparently e5 was good here as well. We went for f5. Took the pawn, went back here. How was this move? Slightly worse because the rook gets in. Or is it because the rook gets in? Because, well, if we go here... Oh, it's mate in one. I didn't see this, to be honest. Although it might have been funny. This was all good, and our opponent resigned here. That's a really nice game. I'm really happy with this. I don't think we've ever had such a high accuracy in a Sicilian game. Typically, those accuracies stem from 1d4 games, which are more positional, but honestly, this did turn into more of a positional game, so it does make sense. Anyways, thanks a lot to this Gmail account from Egypt for the game. Thanks for watching to the end of the video. This has been our game for today, and I hope to see you all tomorrow. Bye bye.